Welcome to the Birth Bootcamp podcast, your trusted guide on your journey through pregnancy, birth, and beyond. I'm Holly, your host, along with Cheryl, Megan, and Liana that make up the Birth Bootcamp headquarters team. Together, we are here to explore the amazing world of childbirth and family wellness. Each week, we'll dive into empowering conversations with expert guests and share practical insights and heartfelt stories to support you on your unique path to parenthood. Whether you're expecting your first baby, you're a seasoned doula or childbirth educator, or simply curious about the miracle of birth, you're in the right place. Together, we'll celebrate the beauty of birth, honor the strength of motherhood, and embrace the joy of new beginnings. So sit back, relax, and join us on the Birth Bootcamp podcast, where every birth is amazing, every family is supported, and every story matters.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Birth Bootcamp podcast. I am Liana Wolf. I'm the administrator of Birth Bootcamp.
And I'm Megan Busk, the head of marketing.
Today, we're just going to talk about those first 6 weeks of postpartum and what that looks like, what you can expect. This is going to be a lot of generalities. Everybody's experience is going to be unique based on where you are, what your support system is. But we're just going to talk some basics. And so I think we're just going to dive right in, Megan, with why is this 6-week phase so important, and why is it so hard?
I think it is hard. I feel like that first 24 hours, you get home, you put baby on the floor, and you and your partner look at each other and you're like, now what do we do?
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we have sole responsibility now for this infant. And so it can be a little bit daunting. Okay, now we have to try to figure everything out. And that's part of the process is figuring each other out. And I tell my clients that all the time. I'm like, it's going to be a little bit rough because you guys, you just automatically got a new roommate that you've never really met before. And they're now living in your house. They're touching you all the time. It can be a really hard transition to just kind of jump into that. And we totally get it. And learning your baby is what your main focus is going to be for that postpartum time, that fourth trimester, as you're going to be learning each other, learning each other's cues. And babies, yes, they can't communicate verbally, but they communicate other ways. And so you're going to be trying to figure all of that out. And it's a learning curve. You're learning a lot.
Yeah. The roommate comparison is so funny. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. But you get a new roommate, you didn't get to interview anybody.
No.
They were chosen for you, and they're incredibly needy.
Yeah. They're touching you, they're sleeping in your bed,
Oh, but great segue. The bed. Let's talk about your body. Your body is healing. You've been in a hospital bed for a day or two. Maybe you birthed at home, so you're just still in bed. But the current kind of maybe trend, I guess, in the American birth communities is that we're trying to encourage what we call the 5-5-5 rule. So after you have your baby, we want you to spend 5 days in your bed, 5 days on your bed. So kind of still mostly hanging out, and then 5 days near your bed. So staying mostly to the room. If you leave the room, get back pretty quick, or at least stay stationary wherever you're going. When I had my second and third, so that was 10 and 8 years ago, they were born at home, and my midwife had 1, 1, and 2. So she wanted me to stay in bed for a week, in the room for a week, and then 2 weeks at home is what she had me do. So, excuse me. And so it's been kind of a variation just as a society, we evolve. I know other cultures still do, I know a lot of Asian cultures still do 40 days, a full 40-day lying in, where the women in their family and their community come and support them.
Yeah.
And a part of me wishes we did that. A part of me feels like it would be very stifling, but that's a personality thing.
I think, excuse me, I think the important thing is just to realize that there are cultures that are taking that time and how beneficial that is. I recently was at a training, a Rebozo training, and she talked about, like, as a woman from Mexico, her mom and her siblings like took a week and they would come to her house and they would be the parent in charge. And they would be responsible for all the other kids. They'd be responsible for, you know, cooking meals and all the things. And all her only responsibility was to be there with the baby and be healing. And I think that, and she didn't realize that that wasn't a common thing. That's not a thing that we do here in the United States. That's just not common. And that's, I think, why the 5-5 rule is becoming more popular, because as a culture, we are recognizing that something needs to change, and that we as women need to recognize that it's okay to take that time and heal and bond with your baby and have that postpartum period. And it's not going to be, unfortunately, with the way our society is, we might not be able to have that 40 days or, you know, but at least if, I mean, bare minimum, if we can get 15 days of rest with our baby, like that is going to be beneficial for us.
Right. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
Gosh. Like, I wish we didn't have to talk in minimums, but here we are. Let's talk about what we're doing at home in those 15 days. We are breastfeeding. We're doing a lot of skin to skin. I want to toss in that we want to have our partner doing skin to skin as well, because they're bonding and they don't have, if you are exclusively breastfeeding, they don't have the benefit of feeding baby. And so giving them that opportunity is really important. But that skin to skin time for you while you're breastfeeding, so important. Establishes your milk supply and really just helps baby learn to start adapting to this outside world. We've talked about the 4th trimester being like, really, babies don't know that there's a world, right?
Yeah.
Like, their world is still very much you and your body. And so just because they're not inside anymore, it's kind of like they're not quite ready to be born. And so mimicking the womb, as we talk about, so skin to skin, having that temperature regulation is so, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like in addition to that, like we've talked a little bit about like spending that time set aside to heal, but like also creating limits for yourself beyond that 15 days. And really recognizing like, hey, I might need, you know, I might need a moment. And if you need to ask for additional help, that is a great time to recognize where your limits are and what's going to be best for you and your baby as well. And along that line, it comes with the fact that 1 in 5 women have maternal mental health disorders, which can range from postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. All of those are encompassed in that. And so it's really important to be able to be aware of and recognize that sometimes postpartum is going to be really hard, not only physically, but mentally as well.
Absolutely. And funny, I have always, actually had always really prided myself on how well I did postpartum. I'm a strong woman. I'm independent. Like, I can handle all of it. You know, 1 through 4, I was just like, I got this, no big deal. And the 4th was a surrogate baby, so I did not have the baby with me. But I mean, 2 days after I had the baby, I was at home by myself because my husband had to work. He couldn't take that time off. He had already taken the day off for the birth. That's a whole different issue that we won't jump into. But I was always like, I got this. It's totally fine. And then I had the 5th one, who was another surrogate baby. And this was the first time that my mom was there from the beginning. so she was working beforehand. So she always came like a week or two after. But this was the first time that she was there before the baby was born because she was retired. And I didn't realize how not well I was coping the previous 4 when I saw how much better I felt having another adult there who was able to take care of me and my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a world of difference. And I didn't even have a baby with me. So it's very easy to think that we've got it in the bag because we're capable, right? Like we got gumption, we pull it up out of wherever we have it stored in our bodies and we just take care of business, right? But it's going to be much better and much healthier if you have support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. And that as birth professionals, and I don't know if you've seen this, but as I talk to people that I know who have gone through like postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, things like that, oftentimes they actually don't realize that they're going through that until it's over. And they're like, whoa, I was in a bad place. But like you're saying, you just kind of power through and you're working through it and you think that this is normal. And it's not. And you get onto the other side and you're like, wow, I really recognize now, like that wasn't great. And so sometimes it is hard to recognize those signs in yourself and see them, but oftentimes that's where the partner comes in. Like they can recognize it more in you than you can in yourself, because you think that this, inside you're feeling like you're handling it well, but from the outside, maybe not as much as you think. So being able to like communicate with your partner, have them nearby, have them step in and create that bond with their baby and figure out their own way of parenting, of becoming a father, like that's going to help you as well. And kind of help you through that process also. Like they're a huge role in all of this.
Yeah. And more than, like you said, it's more than just helping with the baby. It is them being able to prioritize their own needs.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned in previous podcasts that new fathers also can experience postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important that they also get that time with baby to be able to bond, because it's not the same. It's not the same as carrying your own child. And so they kind of have to figure out their own way of bonding and learning how to do things. And sometimes as moms, we have our way of doing things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have to let them figure out their own way. And if your baby is safe and clean and healthy and fed and all of these things, then it doesn't matter how it happens, right?
So
bottom line.
I look back and I'm like, man, I should just have, like I recognize that I was like being, hovering by my husband, but like as an individual, I just need to walk away and just let them do their thing and not like micromanage the situation, because I don't need to. They need to figure out how to be a father, and our ways are going to be different. So I learned myself, I just need to walk away, and it will all, like you're saying, baby's going to be fed and healthy and well, and it's all going to be great, but we are going to maybe do things a little bit differently, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if we have any dads who are listening, don't be afraid to learn your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to do that. And that's a combination of learning your baby and also taking care of your partner. When we had our first, I don't remember how many days postpartum I was, maybe 5. I don't even remember. That's how exhausted I was. I didn't even know what day it was. And my husband was like, you need to go take a nap. I've got the baby. And I was like, great, I'll set an alarm for 2 hours because that seems to be how often he's eating, or just come and get me.
Yeah.
And I woke up almost 4 hours later.
Wow.
And he's got his finger in our baby's mouth. And because we didn't have a pacifier, because we were like, no pacifier. Oh, the things you learn.
All the things you learn.
And he was like, you needed the sleep. He's fine. He's soothing. Is he hungry? Yes, but he's not screaming.
Mm-hmm.
You needed the rest. And he had a rude awakening when he tried to nurse on dad. Like that's just, but he was able to have that time with our son while also giving me the time that I needed, because I didn't realize how far at the end of my rope I was with exhaustion.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that he did that for you. Now we've talked a lot about like why postpartum is hard, and I don't want you to ever like look at like the dauntingness of postpartum. And it is not all daunting. It is a beautiful time to be able to be with your baby. It's actually one of my favorite times to just hold and cuddle and love. But there are some things that you can do to kind of make that time a little bit easier for you. So what are some of your things that you've done, Liana, that have helped you through the postpartum period?
Oh gosh, I love the newborn phase, and I know the newborn phase is not for everybody, but I loved it. And part of that's because breastfeeding came easy. And again, I know that not everybody has that experience. So I was able to really kind of sit and just enjoy the fact that I had a baby.
Yeah.
And just to be able to sit and have that baby snuggle on my chest and like vegetate, and just soak it in and let my husband bring me food, let him fill up my water bottle, and just kind of let it happen. And that's not usually who I am. I've got a good lazy bone, but in terms of doing things for myself, I like to do things. And so that practice of self-care was something that I truly had to practice at, but I enjoyed it when I did it. Doing the sitz baths, which I didn't know what those were until I had a home birth with my second. Just being able to sleep whenever. The whole sleep when baby sleeps, it obviously doesn't mean every time the baby crashes, you crash, but prioritizing times where you're like, the next time baby goes down for a nap, I am going to go down for a nap as well. Especially those first couple weeks when your body is still adjusting to that lack of sleep that you are very likely going to be experiencing. Just kind of recognizing what your body and what your brain needs to take care of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember times where I would just go to my husband and just cry like, oh, because that's what I needed, at that moment. I just needed someone to hold me and just let me feel all the feelings. And I mean, you can do that in a number of ways, and you can reflect on your birth experience. You can journal, you can talk about your feelings with a friend or with your husband, and you can just, feel the feelings, I think is super important. And I love that you mentioned the fact that you can just like be with your baby and just cuddle and like be in that moment. I think that's one of my favorite things as well. Like going through the postpartum period is just like counting all their fingers and toes 1,000 times and like looking at all their little features and taking a million pictures. And you know what I mean? Those are just like the times when you can like be in that moment and see like just who this little human is and how they're growing. And it's just amazing. I love it. Another thing that really helped me, especially as I was like going from like my second and third babies and like having to not only parent toddlers in addition to a newborn, like trying to find that balance because they still love you and they still want your attention and they still want to be near you also. And so for me, it was being able to like find time to be able to kind of multitask almost, like I have got really good at breastfeeding and reading stories, like toddler on my lap, baby in my arm, someone, holding a book, and being able to just continue having those special moments with your additional children as well. And even things like going on a walk and just being, together outdoors, like finding those times to be together with your kids, your other older kids as well, was something that helped me postpartum, because I get into my mind and I'm like, oh, I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I'm not taking the time with my other kids, but I can still rest and recuperate and bond with baby while I'm still, being with them as well.
Yeah. And something you mentioned that we didn't mention in taking care of yourself, which I feel like is really important, and that is getting outside.
Yeah.
Vitamin D is so good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good for you. Even if you're just stepping outside your door, if you don't have a patio or a porch, just stepping out your door and standing in the sunshine for a few minutes is so great for your mental and your physical health because
Yeah.
it's natural vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the added benefit, after you have those 15 days of lying in, right, where you can go for a walk.
Yes.
And I took a walk 4 days postpartum with my
I was gonna
third.
say, I'm pretty sure I took one
It was a
earlier than
bad
15
decision.
days.
I realized 4 houses down the street that I'd made a bad choice. And so I turned around.
Oh,
So yeah,
shoot.
getting outside. But yeah, spending time with your older kids if this is not your first baby. I was always torn between wanting that nap and independent time when my baby
Mm-hmm.
was napping. Like, I either need to sleep or I just need to be me for a few minutes without a child on me, but also my lovely 2-year-old who also needs to remember that mommy still loves him.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Exactly.
that balance of like, okay, baby's down for a nap and I'm not going to hold baby for the nap this time. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
love, who doesn't love holding a sleeping baby first off? And so, but sometimes you need to put the baby down either for yourself or for your other kids. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to then sit on the floor and just, I don't know, drive cars around. My kids didn't play with cars. Is that weird? Or like build with blocks or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Play babies. That's what we do.
Okay, you had babies. My first 2 were boys, but they didn't do a lot of car stuff, so it was weird. I was ready for cars. But you know, building blocks, but being able to sit and give them that attention that they needed, that they can't necessarily verbalize that need for, and just being able to do that is, it's so filling for your heart. You don't think it at the time if you're exhausted, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just really good for your
Yeah.
emotional health for you and your kids.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And there's in our postpartum classes, we also talk about additional things that we can do in preparation for this time. And one thing that helped me a lot was I mean, okay, I will preface this by saying I did this with my first baby, but did not do it with my other 2. Do I wish I had time to have done this? Absolutely. But I prepared meals, like freezer meals for me and my husband, and had them stacked away. And that was so helpful. I was just like, bring out whatever we need for the day and had that ready to go. So I didn't really need to like put much thought into it. And there's great like programs and things like that where you can have people sign up to bring you meals. And if you have like a great community, friends, family who want to do that, that is fabulous, and take advantage of it. Absolutely take advantage of it. Don't say no because it will be helpful for you. Even if it feels weird saying, yes, bring me food, take advantage of it because it will make a difference for you. I promise.
Well, and people want to help. Like, people
Yeah.
genuinely want to know what they can do to assist you. And again, women, we're strong and we're independent. We don't need anybody's help. And so it can
Mm-hmm.
be hard to be like, please help me. Like, you can't help me take care of this baby, but you can help me. You can help
Mm-hmm.
support the mother. And we've talked about that before in previous podcasts, how we're raising mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And the village is more for the mom than for the baby, especially in those first few months.
Yep.
We need to nourish the mom.
Yep. Hold the
So
mother, not the baby, right?
exactly. So pro tip on those meal plans though, have people come every other day, not every day.
Yeah.
Otherwise the leftovers start piling up and it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
So every other day, every 2 days, maybe, like, space it out a little bit because it also stretches those meals out.
Yeah.
And if you can put leftovers in portion size containers and put them in your freezer, it extends the life even longer when you get out of those first few weeks of just overwhelm and you're like, no, I want to cook food, but you still have stuff in your freezer as a reserve, either for lunches or for dinners when you guys are like, I'm tired. The baby did not sleep last night at all or all day, because that happens too sometimes. And you just need to pull something out of your freezer, but maybe the meal train has ended.
I
But
love that. That's a great pro tip. Absolutely.
be strategic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider is making a postpartum plan. So similar to like a birth plan, we're making a plan for postpartum. When I talk to people about this, they're like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, do I really need to do that? I didn't know it was a thing either. But now that I look back, I'm like, that would have been great. And like things to put on your postpartum plan. Let's talk about that a little bit. So like, who is bringing you meals? Who is going to be doing that? If you don't have a community and you need to be doing that yourself, like, is your husband going to be doing that? Are you going to prepare meals beforehand? So we've talked about that a little bit. Who's going to help you or come visit you? Is your mom coming? Do you have sisters, friends that are going to be coming into your home? What are other kind of things do you add to your postpartum plan?
You know, I never had one, so
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing. And when I talk about postpartum plans with my students and my clients, it's usually, I've never really talked about it as an official plan.
Yeah.
Always just been kind of like, make a list of things that you need to get done. And if people want to come visit, have them do a thing on that
I love
list.
that.
Go toss some laundry in. Please go load the dishwasher and start it for me, because the idea of loading it is so overwhelming. And don't go in and rearrange the dishes if they didn't load it the way you would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, you know, the dishwasher's empty. Like, can you please go unload the dishwasher? That would be fantastic. Having somebody come over so you can just go take a shower. And depending on your partner's ability to take leave, you may not have that person there during the day to support you. So if you have any kind of friend network at all, if you don't have family in town or whatever, even just to have people come over for an hour and even just to have another human in the house, adult human, to be clear, adult human, is awesome. But along with that plan of doing things that you want, we also need to make sure we're including boundaries, things that you don't want. If you do have family coming over, maybe you don't have the greatest relationship, or you have a great relationship, but you just know that they may be a bit likely to steamroll or want to take over. Have you seen anything like that, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a client recently who was like, I know my mom is going to make this more challenging for me, and I cannot have her in my space, and that's okay. But being able to like verbalize that and, you know, gently talk to your parents or whoever it is prior and just let them know, hey, like, we would love to see you, but can you wait for 3 weeks or whatever it is, so that you have that time to kind of just group together, and then they can come see baby and whatever else, help you around the house or whatever else needs to be done. But yeah, I think that's huge. And I've seen a lot on the internet and things like that where people are talking, like they'll put a sign on their door that says like, do not kiss my baby, do like wash your hands, like giving kind of a list of instructions of like, this is kind of what I expect from you if you come into my home. I feel like that's a good step, maybe a little, could be harsh for some, but like just at least knowing like, hey, I don't want this to be a situation that we have to deal with once you're here holding baby. And that is a way to set boundaries as well.
Absolutely. Because some people assume, people just assume. And that happened with my first. He was 4 days old, 5 days old, 5 days old. And I went to church because I'm an extrovert and I just wanted to be with my people. But I knew I would also be able to just sit in the nursery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could still not be doing things. And a very good friend of mine came into the nursery and she just beelined it for the sink to start washing her hands. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm not letting other people hold him.
Mm-hmm.
It's flu season. Like
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate you washing hands, but I'm not passing him around. I only let one person hold him, and that's because she was older and he was already 9 pounds. And so I was like, if he gets any bigger, she's not going to be able to hold him
Oh, yeah.
because she was so old and frail.
Yeah.
So I was like, she is the only one who gets to hold the baby. Like she's in a wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
but like nobody else gets to hold the baby. And my friend, like she was hurt and I felt bad, but I was just like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a bit of a tease because I came out because I needed to see people, but I'm keeping my baby close.
Yeah.
And it's okay to hold those boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
while my friend was hurt, she came back when I saw her the following week. And I was like, great, you want to hold him? And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for assuming that I could hold
Mm-hmm.
him last week. And so she had processed that it was like, no, you are well within your right to choose who and when your baby gets held.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. And I love that example because your friends will love you still. Your family will love you still, even if you have set these boundaries. And I think that's huge. We talked a little bit about the importance of like asking for help and being open to help. But in addition to that, a really amazing thing and a great tool that's available is a postpartum doula. And I feel like, so I didn't even know postpartum doulas were a thing. Okay. Like I feel like that didn't exist when I had my first babies. And I honestly didn't know much about a postpartum doula until Birth Boot Camp came out with our postpartum doula program, which is so amazing. But like a postpartum doula, if you're able to hire one, and have that, make that investment can be amazing for you. And they do so many miraculous things. They're not miracle workers, but honestly, like they can really help out. And they can do things like chores around the house, cook meals, keep an eye on baby while you're taking a nap or taking a shower. So it can really make a difference, especially if you don't have a partner who's able to be at home. Being able to at least have somebody else there to be able to help you and support you is huge. And we've talked about that a lot, but really being able to find that community or that adult who can kind of take over that responsibility is going to be huge.
Yeah. And we understand that being able to hire somebody, it definitely comes from a place of privilege. And we understand that not everybody can do that. One option that I see on registries now is that you can put money towards support people. You can say, hey, I don't want to buy you a thing. I want to give you some money to give you that is going to go towards your birth doula or your postpartum doula to help you in this time. And I love that that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
You know, being able to recognize that the things will kind of fall into place. Like the hand-me-down train is strong. And with the advent of Facebook, like buy nothing groups, you can get a whole lot of baby gear for free or very inexpensive. Baby gear that's safe to be handed down. You know, like car seats. Let's not do the hand-me-down car seats unless they're in your own family.
Yeah.
but in terms of, you know, you've got your bouncers, your play mats, like reuse those things. But that support is not something that like you can't get that unless you hire it. And so, and it's also not something that you can, that time you can't get back afterwards.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many so many amazing things that you can do to prepare for postpartum. And if you have any that we haven't talked about or anything that's helped you postpartum, definitely like make a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear about it. But just overall, the message is postpartum is wonderful. It can be a magical time and such a wonderful time for you and your baby to bond together.
And it can be hard. And that's okay too.
It can be hard and that's okay. Yeah,
it can
absolutely.
be hard and wonderful at the same time. And maybe you'll feel those things at the same time. Maybe they'll kind of go back and forth. It's all fine. It's all normal. Communicate with your partner, get support when you need it. I think those are just like the major takeaways. So yeah, like Megan said, if you think of something else, toss it in the comments. And thank you for listening to the Birth Bootcamp podcast today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Birth Bootcamp podcast. We're so grateful to have you as a part of our community. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more families on their journey through pregnancy and birth. As a token of our appreciation, we're excited to offer you our exclusive birth plan blueprint. Inside, you'll find expert guidance and a template to help you create a birth plan that reflects your preferences and desires for your birthing experience. Simply click the link below in the episode description to have your blueprint sent right to your inbox. Remember, your birth plan is a powerful tool for communication and advocacy during labor and delivery. Don't miss this opportunity to take control of your birthing experience and advocate for the birth you envision. Thank you again for listening. Be sure to subscribe, and we look forward to sharing more amazing insights and stories with you in our next episode.